3 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. Good morning. My name is Jeff, hanging out in the KIX 96.5 studios. We love showcasing indie artists on the morning show. And this morning, we're heading to Florida to chat with indie singer-songwriter Tim McGeary. Tim's recorded 3 solo albums, worked as a firefighter, paramedic until 2016. He's now performing and helping other indie artists. We're stoked to have Tim McGeary on the show. Thanks, Tim, for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Well, the first thing I read about you is you're the oldest of 10 children.
That's true. I have five sisters and all named Mary. So, yeah. Yeah, there's 10. There's 5 boys and 5 girls. And, my sister was named Mary. So, yeah, Mary Colleen, Mary Ann, Mary Joan, Mary Catherine, Mary Patricia. Yeah, so.
Wow. Where did you grow up?
We were in New Jersey, outside of Manhattan. My dad had his office. He was an FBI agent, and then when he left that, he worked with the dentist and started a dental clinic, and had all these union people from New York, carpenters unions, mason tenors, and they all went to this. They had this thing where he'd save a little money, wasn't as expensive, and he had a really good dentist, and he had that for a long time, and just made a lot of money. So we grew up as in New Jersey, but sort of like New York kids, because my dad had his office there, and we'd go to Saturday morning boys down at the New York AC, and so it was fun. And my family too, when my kids were little, we used to go to Chinatown. It was so much fun. It was so funny. We go to Chinatown, have a full family dinner for like $40, and then we go to Little Italy across the street on Mulberry Street and have dessert and coffee, and it was $75.
So how was your role as the big brother? Were you kind of the second parent, or how did it work?
Well, basically, you were the babysitter, and I came from, my dad was sort of a strict Irish guy. So, if you ever did anything wrong, you got punished for doing it wrong, and then you got the second punishment for setting a bad example. So.
Yeah, because you were the first one doing any example in the family. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I'm pretty much the black sheep too. I'm one with the tattoos. Everyone else is really straight, office, blue blazers, khaki pants, and it's like me, and they play golf, and I'm the musician, so. Yeah.
So when did the bass come in? When did you start playing bass?
Well, actually, it was funny. I was a drummer first, and this band, Kairos, they needed a bass player. And I was playing acoustic guitar, so I knew the strings. And the guy goes, "Well, we don't need a drummer. We need a bass player. You play bass?" And I go, "Sure, I play bass." So, this is so funny. So my friend's grandfather won a guitar at Palisades Amusement Park, for darts in a balloon. And it was like a sort of a cheap Japanese model. So it had, a regular 6-string. So what we did is we took a hacksaw, hacked off the top 2 nuts, put bass strings on it, bass guitar. And I was a bass player. And I played bass for 20 years. So.
Wow.
Especially. Yeah, so it was fun. And, we had Neighbors and Allies was another band that we had, and a lot of people, came from that band, did other stuff, to our daughter's wedding and Neva. But that was a cool thing, because real quick story. So we were roadieing for this guy, Richard Hill, and the Voidoids, and we asked him if we could if we could open up for him at CBGB's on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. We would roadie for free, and you could have the whole door. And he goes, great. So we played Thursday night. We come off the stage, which is like, oh my God, you guys are really good. Never knew that we practiced our butts off, when we were working with him. And so Friday night we finished off, and we got off stage, and this guy was staying with our band house, and he goes, "Hey, listen, I'll do the roadieing because David Bowie's out there and wants to meet you." And we're like, "What?" David Bowie. So nicest guy, right? And we talked about music, and he really thought, you're the Monte Hoople of the '80s, and blah blah blah. And but he was leaving, and he went to the doorman and said, "Hey, that band, that for opening band, when are they getting paid?" And the guy goes, "Well, they're not." He goes, "Oh yeah, they are." He took $900 out of his wallet and paid us.
Cool. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and I've heard other people that worked with him. They said the same thing. Nicest guy, just
Huh.
So so who knew? But
So you went from Neighbors to Allies to the Rescue.
The Rescue, right? Mm-hmm. And that one we did. We recorded the record in England, the Sarm East. Yes, had just finished the Own a Lonely Heart record the day they walked out. The day we walked in, we finished our record there. Tony Mansfield. I don't know. Remember that song? Did the Naked Eyes? Always something there to remind you. did the electronic version. That's the guy that did our record. So, and we did pretty good. And then, so it was so funny. Our manager put us on this terrible tour. It was like, oh, like every club owner was worse than the next. It was like, oh my God. We come back like, what the heck was that, dude? Like, and he goes, I'm just trying to toughen you guys up. But he goes, stop crying, because in next 2 weeks you're opening up for Duran Duran at Brendan Arena in front of 25,000. And so we did like 2 years of touring with, we opened up like 40 Days with Billy Idol, Stray Cats, Simple Minds, Modern English, Depeche Mode, The Cure, Duran Duran, Roxy Music, Thomas Dolby, Missing Persons, Patti Smythe and Scandal. I mean, everyone that was sort of big, Berlin, and that was big in the 80s, we were the opening band. We never headlined. We just like, so we used to, it was a joke, like, we're the greatest opening band that ever lived, because we never ever headline. But what a great gig, I mean, we played like 5 or 25,000 seaters like for 2 years, and it was way fun, and we were a good opening band. We were tight. We got the people going, and so so when the headliners came out, the people were already amped up, and they liked it because the people were like, hey, the opening band was good, because sometimes you go to see a show and the opening band is like, oh, how'd they get that slot?
Yeah.
But we pulled it off, and people really dug it, so it was really good, and the bands liked it because they were just. Then they took it to the next level because they had all the hip singles everyone knew. So, but it was like people were like, good. And it was just a great show all the way. So, and we got along with the band guys too. It was just an easy deal. So,
yeah.
But,
wow, unbelievable. Because you guys were a new wave band. Who was the coolest out of everybody you toured with?
Well, let's see. I really liked the guys from Missing Persons. I mean. They were really, they liked us. We did a tour with them, and they said, listen, have them come back on the second time we went on tour, And that Terry Bozzio, I don't know of him, but he's an unbelievable drummer. I think back then he was like in the top 10. It was like, he was amazing. Nicest guy, And one time I had like, I had food poisoning, but see, I have an adage like, show must go on. So, so I got sick, washed my mouth out. My roadie handed me my guitar. I went out there. We did our show. I was just about to get sick again. I throw the guitar at the roadie. He kicks it up. I run out the side of the back, and that's that Terry Bozzio's walk. Is Tim, you okay? So like, yeah. So yeah. Billy I was fun. Steve Stevens, was great. Roxy Music was sort of funny because we had the same management. EG Management had Roxy Music and King Crimson and Killing Joke, and we were their sort of American experiment. And it was funny because we could meet everyone in Roxy Music except for Brian Ferry, because you can't talk to Brian.
You can't talk to Brian. Yeah.
I go like, really? And I met so many people that are huge songwriters and artists and stuff, and they're always the nicest people because they don't have to put airs on. They're there already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the people that are sort of not really there. They have to be all uppity and stuff, and it's like, dude. You better stop that, because it's great when you're going up, but when you're going down, and remember everyone's like, oh yeah, I remember you, get lost. So, so I've always tried to be, but my whole thing is I just like to write, a great song. That song, I Can't Make You Love Me, Linda, people, it's turn down the bed, turn out the lights, why can't I, what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I can't, oh God, she just won the Grammy for the Song of the Year. I can see her face, but whatever. That song originally was a bluegrass song, and the guy, the other guy that sung, because I did a show with Art Shamblin. He was one of the writers of that, and they retooled that to that great song. When did I think of that? Yeah, you know the song. I mean,
we'll know the song for sure. Well, after 1984, you go record a couple solo albums. You're doing indie, Tim, before indie was cool.
So, well, I did. I luckily John Hampton, who did the Gin Blossoms, Stevie Ray Vaughan family record. I mean, on and on. This guy was great. And Art of the Studios is a famous studio. Everyone and their mother, from Led Zeppelin to Allman Brothers, they all recorded there. So, and I got an open slot for 3 weeks, and he goes, okay, let's do it. So, and John Hampton's the nicest guy. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years back, but we were always sort of friends, and we'd always call each other, and see, how's he's doing and stuff like that. And that was my first. And it has authentic Memphis sandwich. And I had a lady. She was so sweet. This older black woman come in, and she fed everyone. I mean, she fed everyone in that studio, all these musicians for 20 years. And she's like so sweet. And so, and she'd go like, "What do you got for lunch?" One time she goes like, "Well, I got these. I got the square fish." What kind of fish is that? Well, it's a square. It's like, but she made these like really delicious desserts and and it was just perfect because you were sort of hungry. Like when you're in the studio, you have to eat. It's like because you're just constantly concentrating on like the music and everything else. It's like sort of like studying for an exam, and you're in the studio for 10 hours. So think of like. Sit in front of a book for 10 hours, like, and concentrate. So it was great when you had like a little bit of time off, and she'd bring these like delicious cakes and stuff. So, and and then so I asked one time, he goes, "What do you got?" She goes, "I got the sandwich." I got sandwich. I go, so it's called the Authentic Memphis Sandwich, and that's why I did it because in her honor. Because she fed me for those 3 weeks, every lunch, and it was great. Yeah, I loved her. She was awesome.
Go and check out Tim. He's at timmcgeary.com. He's on Facebook, Twitter. One thing, in 1984, you became a firefighter, paramedic, flight medic. You worked on the federal DMAT team that was deployed to 9/11, to Ground Zero. What were you thinking when you heard this, Tim?
Well, I joined the team because it was just like, I didn't even know. This is before 9/11 happened. It was actually... it wasn't 84. It was 94. I joined.
Oh, was it 94? Okay.
Yeah. So, that happened, and I was just devastated because we took our kids to the towers, top of the World Trade Centers. They were little, and and it was just, and then when I heard that, oh my God! So we went up there with the support thing. It's a disaster medical assistance team, and we went up there. And we set our tent up right on Ground Zero, and we were there for 2 weeks. And we just, and a lot of firefighters, steel workers, and it was more injuries than I thought, even. So we just supported them and stuff. It was great. But I tell you, when I first went there, we had like a debriefing before we got to the site, and they said, "Okay, listen, you're going to see this stuff, and it's going to be pretty ugly." So we get there, and it was all these scene lights, these giant, it looked like a movie set of like End of the World. It was like, you see like there was a one engine, and it had it was damaged, but the air horn worked. So if that air horn went off, that they found a piece of something like firefighter gear or something like that. And what they would do, they would call the guys from that firehouse, to go pick it up if it was their guy. And it was like you cried. I mean, it was just like so sad. And then you hear these stories of these people jumping out because they were on fire. And but again, like, I don't know if you heard this, but we were there all the way to the end to Columbus Day, and they had Columbus Day parade. There was these people that came from Oregon. There was 900 people, and they booked flights to New York City. They said, "We love, we're going to support New York. They got hit hard, so we're going to support them." And so they flew out there. Now think about the logistics of putting 900 people together on planes, and they marched with us. It was just so cool. And that's the kind of stuff that I saw. We were there for like weeks, and Salvation Army or the Red Cross, they were feeding us and stuff. But you can almost only eat so much, dried chicken breast and baked beans.
Yeah.
So, but still you still appreciate it. But the last couple of weeks we were there, like these chefs came down, like 5-star chefs, and they're bringing food, and it was like veal stuffed cannelloni, and and oh my God, it was like the most delicious food you ever ate. And there was a lot of TV stars and movie stars that came there, and that were giving the food out, trying to support the firefighters and stuff. I mean, it was just so many things. There was podiatrists, there was a massage therapist. I mean, all these things they did just to like help anybody that was working on the pilot. It was so great.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with when I went to
you went to Hurricane Katrina too.
Yeah, we had they sent us out. We went to New Orleans, and I said, "Listen, we just flew 5,000 people out to Kelly Air Force Base in San Antonio. So we're going to send you out there because they have no medicine, they have nothing." So okay, so we went. So it was a 2-day trip to get there because we have these trucks and they're loaded because it's like a big MASH unit. So what happened? We were at this hotel, and there was about 20 families there that had no money because they lost everything. And some guy came by with his visa and said, "Listen, I'll pay for all these families till they have a place to go." It was like, wow.
Wow.
It's, you never hear that. There's so many good
Yeah, you
things,
don't hear the good stories.
No, I mean, it's like, and that's the thing, is like, we rally as a country when things go bad. We just got to do it all the time, just like, this whole American Made song that I think I sent you in, and it's, I believe that, like, I have friends that, like, are on the right and the left. There was an old Texas guy, like 90-year-old guy, and he's like, Tim, he goes, you need the right and the left. He goes, you can't play with one wing and never get off the ground. And it's like true. There's good parts on both sides. You know what I mean? There's good parts on the right, there's good parts on the left. And there's crazy parts on the right and the crazy on the left. So the thing is, but most of us as Americans, we're like central. Like we just want what's good for the country. We want what's good for our neighbor.
Yeah.
And I see that over and over and over. Like when Ian came down in Florida, my daughter lost everything. She's moving up to Philly in a couple of weeks, Philadelphia. And but they lost their house, their car, everything.
Oh.
Gone. The whole neighborhood was trashed. And all these people are coming around, like, because people they take all their flooded stuff out. It was all, it was moldy, so they had to get it out of the house. So there's young adults coming in. Hey, listen, you need help getting something out of your house. Not asking for anything, just helping. People coming around with food. The church around the corner said, hey, listen, we have hot meals. I know, like, there's no one had electricity. They were serving hot meals to all the people in the neighborhood. I mean, that's what I see.
Yeah.
So and I love that about our country. I love it.
Yeah, they do. They do come together when there are disasters. We're chatting with Tim McGeary. Go check him out, timmcgeary.com. He's on Facebook. Go check him out, Tim McGeary Music, if you go to Facebook. I've interviewed Missy Balsam. She's a Spitfire. You've worked with Missy. How did this connection happen?
Well, we were actually at it was a thing for Ukraine. For the victims of Ukraine, the war victims and stuff. Like I was in Europe too. I did, last year I went to Europe and had shows in Germany, Czech Republic, Scotland, and Portugal. And when I was in Germany, I had a show in Germany. I had eight women from Ukraine there, and they were telling me their stories about like their husbands and sons that are over there fighting, and it was like stoic. But so Missy here, we were raising some money and awareness to their situation. And she was there, and like, and I played, a song or a few songs, and we just started talking. It was sort of funny because I said, well, listen, why don't you come over, we'll do some recording. And she called me up like to make sure I wasn't a creep. I guess. So we've actually we've had 4 songs. We're working on our 5th one. We have a new song called Raise It Up, which is going to be coming out like the next couple of weeks. But she has 3 songs we did. We did Burn. Now,
Run, I think, is one of them.
Yeah, and then the other one is Move My Body. So that's sort of a dance thing. But she likes that 80s vibe thing, and that's of course like that's what that was my thing, back then. So I said sure, and sort of fun. And I've been working on my studio, and COVID hit. Like because I used to go into Nashville like every couple months and stay there for 2 weeks and write 20-25 songs. Now I come home. And but we couldn't do a lot of that. So what I did, I just got my studio together and took some lessons and just worked. And so now it's like I have like it's Black Crow Studios, and I'm actually working with people like in Scotland, the country of Georgia. I have a lady, Jennifer, in Toronto. Leah's in Mexico. So I'm working with people around the world, putting songs together with them.
Wow,
it's really fun. Yeah. So it's just great. I love music. The thing with music is like, you get a crowd of 50,000 people and you have different races, different religions, sexual identities, whatever, doesn't matter, because when the music comes on, everyone is one. Yeah. We don't care about the differences. We just love the music. And how powerful is that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Putting on, I love that. So that's why I do it, and I just want to write, Bonnie Wright, that's what I was thinking of, saying, I Can't Make You Love Me. Okay, that's the song.
Oh, yeah.
I know you heard it.
Yeah,
that one, yeah. That was originally a bluegrass song. I can't believe it. I was like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, she did win the Grammy for it.
Yeah, she won that, for that new song. And that's like, because I lost my 18-year-old son in a car accident 17 years ago. And I'll tell you a real quick story. So, this is like, I believe, but we went outside, and about 10 days after the funeral, the single white flower grew in my yard, and it hadn't rained or anything. So we go, oh boy. So, and we never saw that flower in my yard. We'd been there about 12 years. So we called it his name was Trevor. We called it Trevor's Flower. Well, the next day, or the next day, my wife went out, and the original flower closed up, and there was 5 white flowers just like the first one.
Wow.
So she went to the phone to call me, and when she got there, the phone rang, and it was a nurse from the organ donation. She said, "Hey, I just want to tell you that 5 lives were saved from your son's gift." Woo!
Wow.
So I mean, yeah. So, and then, yeah, there's more and more.
That's crazy.
So yeah. So the thing is, and there's joy in our house. I mean, you always had that whole, losing a child there's nothing worse than that. But my wife and I, we're being married 43 years in November, and we just figured out the secret is stay together. Whatever comes our way, we hold tight, and we'll make it through. And we've been through some stuff. I'm 36 years clean and sober. So.
Wow, way to go, Tim.
Yeah, Billy Idol, 80s. I say no more. I say no more.
So, you had plenty in the 80s. Wow. Well, I mean, the state of music, you got to be excited with everything you're doing.
Yeah, I just, I love writing songs. I love creating with people. I'm gonna write with this guy Chris Moon. He was one of the guys that sort of was early in Prince's career. You know what I mean? He lives down here, and so we're gonna work with him next week. I have I'm doing a lot of interviews from people around the world. I have a lot of friends in Scotland and different countries that are playing my music, Ireland and stuff like that. So, things are getting there. I mean, I just love creating. And for me, I have to do something. I can't be the kind of person that I'm retired and I'm going to sit here and watch a movie. I don't play golf, all my brothers do. And not just the bad, but it's just I just love creating, and I can't turn it off. I tell people, being a songwriter, there's a curse and a blessing. The blessing is you can do the song, you can write songs that connect to people, like Miracle or something like that, or Hold On, and sort of sad numbers. But the curse is I can never turn it off. I mean, at 3:30 in the morning, if I get an idea in my head, there's no way I'm going back to sleep. I have to get up, get to the studio, do something, and record something so you go back to sleep, because I like sleeping. I really do.
Yeah.
Because being a paramedic for 23 years here in town, you didn't get a whole lot of sleep.
No.
And I had a lot, and I worked a lot of overtime, and stuff like that. So, sometimes I'd be on shift for 48 hours in a row, you know what I mean? And getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and here I am making decisions like life and death, with people, especially with the med flight, because you had all the crazy, trauma calls, and gunshots and wicked car wrecks and stuff like that. So, but
wow.
I love that job because I was helping people for a living.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I birthed babies. One of my first calls was a 1.5-year-old drowning, and we got him back. And by the time we got to the hospital, he was crying, and he came home 8 days later and no deficits. So,
wow.
So that was a good day for sure.
Yeah, that was awesome. Well, man, we'll definitely have to do it again or bring you back on, Tim.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. I love to be here, man. Thanks so much, and thank you so much for playing songs, and so much for bringing out indie artists. So important, because some of these stations that they have a rotation of 25 songs.
Yeah,
that's it. They play. You know what I mean? And I love classic rock, but sometimes okay, I've heard that song for 50 years. It's so good. But can we move on? Please.
Exactly. Can we hear something else? Yeah, don't be afraid to go check out indie artists. Go check him out, Tim McGeary. He's at timmcgeary.com. Go check him out, Tim McGeary Music on Facebook. Here's American Made. Tim, thanks so much.
Thanks so much for having me, man.
It's KIX 96.5.